Hey guys, what's going on? In today's video, we're not actually doing something to the ZR, it's a slightly different type of video. It's more of a review, so if you don't follow me on Instagram, which you should by the way, there's a link in the description for that, but I have two new sponsors or affiliate kind of things, one being Mishimoto. In this video we're talking about MaXpeedingrods, which if you didn't know, that's the turbo I run on the ZR. It is a MaXpeedingrods GT2871, I believe. So when it stops raining we'll go to a review on that turbo. In the meantime, they've sent me an external wastegate to review, which obviously I don't have a tubular manifold yet, so I can't really put it to the test, but I am really impressed with A, how quickly this turned up, and B, how good the quality is on it. MaXpeedingrods have always been known as one of the cheaper companies to go to, and not many people have had great experiences. A lot of people have had great experiences. Me personally, with the turbo I've got, I've had an amazing experience, and I know several people who run their turbos, and I've had good experience with them. And I wanted to try one of their wastegates, so I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see inside it, but it has been machined really well. It's all greased up and everything. I believe it comes with a 14 psi spring as standard, many ports for many things, so you can run boost controllers or whatever, and just, you know, attach it to your turbo. It is V-band as well, which is very nice, because when you're making exhaust and dump pipes and stuff, V-band is so much easier to work with than normal flanges, because obviously I can't get under my car right now to show you, but I made my exhaust and there's a flange that doesn't line up perfectly, which means an exhaust leak. Obviously you don't want that for your wastegate, and V-band kind of eliminates that completely. Plus you can clock it and whatnot and rotate it to where you need to be. Overall, I'm really impressed with the wastegate, especially for the price. I think they're like £45, something like that. So overall, my honest opinions on this wastegate: if you want to get a wastegate, if you want to get an external wastegate, I believe it's 38mm. I'd go for this one if you're not wanting to break the bank. Obviously I've not had a chance to test it yet, purely because I've not got a tubular manifold, but overall the quality of it, the weight especially, is quite heavy. It feels like a quality product. All the casing and everything, really nice. All the V-bands and everything, the whole piece has been machined really well. So if you're looking for a good quality but also budget-friendly external wastegate, I would definitely go for this. So here it is, the MaXpeedingrods GT2871R. This is a journal bearing turbo, and I know a lot of people hate on journal bearing turbos. I don't understand why. I can understand why for higher horsepower builds, because obviously journal bearing tend to spool a bit later on. They struggle spooling a little bit. This is only a 1.8 and I get into boost at about 3,500 RPM, which isn't too bad to say. It's a decent sized turbo, and the fact that it's a journal bearing turbo, and I've had literally zero issues with this the whole time I've had it. I've ran this turbo for about a year now. The car has only just gone on the road, but the turbo holds boost, no problem whatsoever. The reason I'm going external wastegate is because at first I had issues with the wastegate, or what I thought was the wastegate. Because I wasn't running a boost controller, the boost was fluctuating, because I think it's an 8 psi spring in the internal wastegate, and I was jumping between 8 and 12 psi, it was kind of all over the place, just because, you know, running lower boost on a bigger turbo is it makes the wastegate harder to manage boost, which is one of the downfalls of this turbo. If you do get one of these, I would highly recommend porting the wastegate. I didn't port my wastegate, which I regret not doing. I think with a bigger wastegate opening, this turbo would have zero issues whatsoever. Mine has had zero issues. The only thing that I did have problems with was the wastegate not being able to get rid of the waste exhaust gas, which, to be fair, isn't a problem if you're running higher boost. I know several people who run these turbos, mainly on Hondas, but, you know, I run mine on a Rover, and a couple of the other K-Series people run them as well. I can't say that I've had any issues with mine. The only thing I did have was my oil feed pipe, which is obviously nothing to do with the turbo. It split and starved the turbo of oil for about a minute. You know, you'd think the turbo's dead after that. There's zero shaft play still. I managed to get a new feed pipe, put it on, and I was really scared about the turbo blowing, and the turbo's perfectly fine. The only complaint that I would have, and again, it's not to do with the turbo itself, the feed pipe gaskets aren't great. They tore really easy. But other than that, like, the turbo itself is really good quality, especially for the price, because I think it's under £200, which For a turbo, it's kind of ridiculous, but yeah, you'd expect a lot less for the price, and I've seen a lot worse for the price. So, in my experience, I am really impressed with it. Like I said, the only downfall being the oil feed gasket and the wastegate fluctuating without a boost controller, which is nothing major really. Obviously, you know, if you're running the higher power figures, you'll need to run a boost controller anyway, and how often is it really that you're going to be running a GT28 with an internal wastegate anyway, or with an internal wastegate without a boost controller? Obviously for now, I'm wanting to stay around the 250 to 280 horsepower mark, but in the future, you know, we could go 300, 350 and see if the turbo takes it. And, I mean, worst case scenario, put the turbo to the absolute test, and I honestly think that it'll take the boost and take the abuse, because every time I've drove it, especially now with the manual boost controller, every time I've drove this car, I've had no issues with it holding boost whatsoever. So if you are in the market for a cheap turbo, or you're doing a budget turbo build, I would highly recommend going to MaXpeedingrods for one of their turbos. They don't just do the GT28, they do several standard turbos. I believe they do the standard cores as replacements as well. I think they do a GT30 of some sort, so they do a bigger version if you want to go bigger than this, which I might in the future. But for now, I'm sticking with the GT28. I've had zero issues with it, and honestly, for the sake of £200, if eventually it does go bang, it's replaceable very cheaply. And for the amount of time that I've had this turbo and ran it with no issues, I'm honestly impressed with it, because having zero issues with a turbo that costs less than £200 it's impressive, to say the least. So if you guys have enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe down below, as you always do, and I'll see you guys in the next bloody video.